Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, we invite you to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Ratings and reviews always appreciated. At ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. Champions League Match Day 3 in the books. 8 incredible matchups to break down on this week's episode. 8 killer rematches on the docket this week. These 8 matches separated by only 11 goals. And as you know, 6 of those came at the hands of Barcelona's pummeling of Rosengard. Spoiler alert. We are breaking down all 8 games, all 4 groups. Who's in good form, who's in great form. I am your host, Dino DeCespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grand Eagle. What is up, man?
Buddy, just trying to make it through this life. Sometimes you got to play underdog football. Sometimes you walk into situations as a favorite. But overall, we're out here grinding. We're out here moving. Just excited for this other crop of matches. So many great squads in this tournament. It's just unreal.
Let's go. Yeah, sometimes you just say to your opponent, this is Lisbon. We are Benfica.
Hell yeah.
Group A, Group B, we're going to chop those up. If you missed our Group C, Group D breakdown/preview, scroll up in the feed a little bit. We looked at all the teams in those 2 groups, Bayern, Roma, Ajax, PSG, Chelsea, Hacken, Paris FC, Real Madrid. But enough of all that. We're here to talk Group A, Group B. A couple big dogs got busy this past week. Where do you want to get started?
Buddy, there's no other place to get started. We're talking Group B. We're talking Lyon versus SK Brann. Disclaimer at the top, I'm fully in the tank for Brann. Let's go, Brann. I'm moving to Norway. Let's figure this out. We're making this happen. So the main thing here is Lyon looked like the favorites. They played like the favorites. But Brann, that's a long-term asset, buddy. I'm a working class guy. I don't own a ton of stock. I don't fancy myself any kind of day trader or anything like that. But if I know one thing, you try to buy at relatively lower value and hope that it increases to get that ROI later. Brann looks good. I'm buying all the Brann stock I could possibly buy now. I've been flirting with this throughout these episodes. I'm all the way in. I want as close to the ground floor as I could be, and I'm buying as much as I can.
Buy and hold.
Let's go. Buy and hold. Well, we got to start with Lyon early because this is what they do. This is who they are. Haugland, defensive midfielder for Brann, has a pretty bad giveaway. And then the only tricky thing about playing Lyon is if you have a bad giveaway in your own third and then you give the ball to Kadidiatou Diani, now you might be triple fucked because Diani, you think if you give the ball away, she's going to be in on the keeper and she's going to tuck away a close one. But she's such an out-of-this-world player that Haugland has the giveaway. Diani comes in. She's probably around like 12 yards out from the end line, but she's way over as she's facing the goal on the right side at just this weird angle. But she's like, you know what, I'll probably make this, and hits in just an incredible, incredible bending shot. Mikalsen, the keeper, has no chance at saving it. It's not quite upper 90 because it has to hit side netting at what a terrible angle she's at.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I don't 100% blame Mikalsen because why would somebody try a shot from that angle, from that distance? It was going to be nearly impossible to stop, and they opened the scoring early. I mean, I know you love an incredible piece of skill as much as I do. What's the reaction when Diani does that? In the 6th minute, by the way.
I literally wrote in my notes, good God. Just so audacious. I mean, smoke coming off the ball. You said that you really can't blame Mikalsen for not saving it. I wouldn't blame her if she didn't even see it. Like it was hit so hard from such a wicked angle. And also like the 3 touches that she had, 1, 2, and then the third one to kind of give her room to sprint onto it. And She knew what she was doing. She's like, I'm going to put that ball over there. I'm going to sprint onto it. I'm going to beat you there. And I'm going to fucking tuck it in the weird back part of the, like it just, the geometry was all fucked up. But unbelievable skill. And so early in the match. I mean, if you didn't know that you can't make a mistake like that in that part of the field, she was just there to remind you immediately.
And I got to say, as somebody who is very quickly, as I mentioned at the top, becoming a Brann supporter, that was the last thing that I wanted to see. I was like, okay, Keep them off in the first 15. I think a lot of people will probably look at this, so I don't want to think I'm like special or anything, but I kind of think of like each half has these 3 pieces, the first 15, the middle 15, and the final 15, and maybe with a little special emphasis on like the last 5 of a half of like, how do you sprint into the locker room? And so I was like, okay, coming into this match, I'm a little nervous for Brann, but I love the squad. I love the energy. I love the heart of the team, and they have great skill. And I'm like, keep them off the score sheet in the first 15 and let's fucking have some breathing room and be able to attack them. Nope, that's immediately out the window. And it's out the window in a way where most mortals would look at themselves and be like, well, I don't know. How am I going to deal with that? If that's what I'm playing against, then what the fuck chance do I have? 2 minutes later, Wendie Renard hits a pass over the top as perfect as you can hit it. It's not enough that Renard is the best defender in the world, possibly the greatest defender to ever live in the women's game. It's not enough that she is super tall and is super dangerous with her head. She can also just hit a pinpoint 50-yard bomb to Eide Hegerberg.
Ridiculous.
Just crazy. She hits it to Hegerberg in the 8th minute, forces a save from Mikalsen. Mikalsen quick to get off her line. She doesn't have the memory from the perfect shot from Diani, clearly not in her mind, not pressed, gets off her line, is able to save it, get it out of the danger area from Eide Hegerberg, who's obviously another world-class player. And, I'm like, okay, that's good. Mikalsen doesn't look shook. We need that if we want any chance in this. In the 23rd minute, that confidence to come off the line and push the ball away from Hegerberg doesn't show when she's standing over a goal kick. From what I saw, it did not look like Mikalsen was very confident in her passing options out of this goal kick. She gives the ball to Østenstad, who I maintain is an excellent defensive player, but she gives it to Østenstad with Hegerberg bearing down on her immediately. And it's a bad giveaway. It looks terrible for Østenstad. If you're Østenstad, I think the question is, I'm getting the ball played to me. I now have this incredibly dangerous attacker running up behind me. I think Østenstad's best option is to play a one-time pass back to Mikalsen, to give it right back to her, to keep it away from Hegerberg, and Mikalsen just blast it out and get some breathing room. But the thing you have to consider if you're Østenstad is my youngish keeper, expecting me to play a one-time pass immediately back to her off of her goal kick pass?
Yeah.
Or if I do that, am I going to catch her off guard and score an own goal? So she tries to hold it and kind of move Hegerberg away. Hegerberg's not having any of that. She grabs it and immediately tucks it into the corner. Mikalsen has no shot, can't even leave her feet, can't even dive for it because she has no time to even think or react.
Yeah.
And we're 2-0 at 23 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I want to keep the faith. However, I have seen this movie several times with Lyon. Where were you at this point?
It wasn't the same overwhelming Lyon that we've seen in other matches. Mm-hmm. So I will say that, Brann still looks super live. It's just hard because Lyon's the type of team that just makes you pay so dearly for these little mistakes.
Yep.
I guess maybe at this point in the tournament, that's kind of what it's coming down to. We're all going to play solid football, and you leave the door open a little bit, we're going to kick it down. My overwhelming thought, though, was when you look at Diani, Van de Donk, Bacha, Däbritz, and Hegerberg, what the fuck do you do? Literally, the ball can come from any point in the field. Any one of those five from any point in the field can do something extremely, extremely dangerous. So, I always kind of harken back to the fighting sports. When you're fighting somebody that's so explosive and so accurate, it's literally exhausting to just be like, wow, every fraction of a second, something terrible can happen, But I thought that Brann was really tough and there for it. I think we've seen that start go 5-0, go 6-0. There's a couple match we'll get to a little bit later where that's kind of what it looked like, but credit to them. Gaupset, another ITC legend, she was there for it. She had an amazing opportunity maybe 10 minutes after the Hegerberg goal, so I was still pretty positive, I'll say, from a Brann perspective. And we talked about the back-to-back nature of these two teams facing each other in successive weeks. This one's obviously at Lyon. We're like, okay, what do they do? We don't think it's going to be a kitchen sink game. We think it's going to be like a, hey, we're here kind of game.
Yep. Let's
see what we're up against, and we know that we're going to get this team again. And I think the way that the group is shaking out, they're in just such a good spot right now to be able to advance, that I think if they keep their cool and they keep playing as hard as they can, obviously I don't think they're going to be back next season, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because of kind of where they finished. So This is pretty much everything. So I think they're looking at this group stage as 6 matches. They're not looking at it as a one match. It's not a knockout match. And they get the rematch. I don't know. Vibes are still good. How about you?
I try to control myself swinging wildly through the course of the match. When Lyon gets their second in the 23rd minute, then maybe a little bit of doubt started to creep in, but I was like, okay, just don't fuck around with the ball in your own final third. You just have to be a little more decisive. Like you were saying, Lyon makes you pay dearly for those mistakes. And I know it's easier said than done because Lyon runs a press. And with, like you said, Däbritz and Donk, they are so mean in the press. Like, you don't get a fucking inch with those two. Like, they are all over you. Bacha, too. Like, it's just a nightmare trying to pass it around in your own third with all those genius players lurking who see every angle. They see every passing angle that you are trying to exploit. Okay, so I think I've said my requisite number of nice things about Lyon. So now I'm turning it, man, because I'm with you. Like as we got like to the 30th minute and things started to progress, I was like, this Brann team is fucking here. And the announcer had mentioned several times, I think he was citing the FIFA composite team ranking. And he was referring to Brann having the lowest remaining FIFA composite ranking of any club in the tournament. And I am not one to blow off metrics, especially a metric that I don't know what goes into the formula for it. But even if Brann has that lowest kind of club composite ranking from FIFA, somebody had to in these 16 teams. And that is absolutely, unequivocally not bearing out in the way these games are played. Brann is fucking absolutely deserving of being there. They can play with these teams. They have the skill. They have the audacity to play with all of these teams. As they started to get into the game, they started to really kind of turn it on. I think the cavalry came on in the 66th minute. Attacker Rakel Engesvik, who we've mentioned earlier, she's had some good moments earlier in the tournament, and dynamic young midfielder Nora Eide came in. And I think when those two come into the game, they immediately flip the geometry of the field. They are on the front foot. They are making passes. They're moving around. You mentioned Gaupset, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite players. She had a drive, I think it's what you were referencing, where she just drives the ball 50 fucking yards down the field, where she is just completely confident.
She's so awesome.
She's so great, man. And like, again, your Zion Williamson comp is perfect because she and we're talking healthy prime Zion, who's just like, oh, yeah, I'm stronger than you. And I'm actually pretty fast also. Oh, by the way, I'm really smart. I love the way she plays. And I've heard this term start to get thrown around. I know it's an old football term that we've probably heard a lot watching Premier League. But Gaupset plays on the half turn. Every time she's receiving the ball, it might not always be forward, but she is going in a certain direction. She has decided which way I'm going to go with the ball as she's receiving the pass. And she has enough variance in it and enough left and right-footed skill to where she's able to kind of keep her defenders off balance. She has another run. It ends up with Engesvik, who handles it with perfect precision. She's able to get down into a dangerous area, and Engesvik real smartly plays a perfect pass to 20-year-old Justine Kielland. I think that's how the announcer was pronouncing it. Kielland. It starts with a K. It's a Norwegian name. I'm hoping our pal Per Arne can correct my pronunciation. And please, Per, if I'm mispronouncing your name, please correct us on that as well. We need the
Very
help,
high
man.
probability of that.
Yeah, I'm saying way high. Not familiar with Norwegian pronunciations. I just love Engesvik sends it in to Kielland, and Kielland scores the goal. And she looked like a 21-year-old scoring the goal because she looked fucking surprised. And she banged it home, man. Like, good for her. But she kind of looked over at everybody like, hey, I scored a goal in a Champions League game. Like, she was like super psyched about it. And I think starting from that 66th minute, and even maybe a little before then, Brann was like, you know what, man, we're not going out like this. We're going to win this last half hour of this game. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to go into the rematch with a little more confidence. I think that's what they did.
How about Lyon's first goal given up in this group stage? And actually, they won their league. So this is their first goal given up in their entire Champions League season.
Insane.
So that's an interesting kind of like maybe first domino heading into the rematch. So super duper excited to see this one. When is this one happening? This one's going down Thursday, 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. Pacific.
Oh, yeah.
So we will 100% be locked into this one.